Unraveling the mysteries, secrets in the night. We travel through the cosmos, ready for the flight. Together we'll shine, casting shadows aside, in the heart of the rhythm where our dreams collide.
Join the Subnation X quest, the truth is our guide. In the vast expanse, it's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the grooves around us, everything's alright.
On the Subnation X quest, the truth is our guide. In the vast expanse, it's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the grooves surround us, everything's alright. SNX Radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots.
Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spots. Heavy bass drops with tight beats.
Illuminate the shadows, the echo of our call.
On this rolling ring will never fall.
Feel the energy rising, can you sense the spark? As we dive deeper into the cosmic arc.
Stories of the universe, mysteries unfold. In the heart of SNX, where the truth is gold. Every note we play, every line we write, crafting our legacy, shining ever bright.
SNX Radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots.
Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spot. Here in the spotlight, we're taking our turn. With the fire in our hearts, let the passion burn. SNX Radio's call, ringing through the air. Together we rise, together we dare.
So join us now, let the rhythm flow. With SNX Radio, we're ready to go. Unraveling the mystery side by side, we stand hand in hand. In this dance of truth, let the story expand. Out in the dark, the stars align. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Signals flashing, a secret sign. Sasquatch whispers, UFOs glide. Mysteries unfold, can't hide, can't hide. Voices in the static calling me, calling me. A cosmic rhythm setting me free. SNX, feel the vibe, let it flow. Connections glowing, don't you know? SNX, light the night, let it show. Cosmic groove, we're ready to go. Footprints in the woods, shadows move, move. Skyline flickers, it's a neon groove. Expert stories witness sight, unravel truth in the cosmic light. Voices in the static calling me, calling me. A cosmic rhythm setting me free. SNX, feel the vibe, let it flow. Connections glowing, don't you know? SNX, light the night, let it show. Cosmic groove, we're ready to go.
and welcome everybody back for another exciting episode of a collab with SNX Radio. It's me, Coley, and we got Rob from Typical Skeptic Podcast tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Rob. We're trying to cut the intro here for you guys, so I can keep dropping the show live so we can get Brian as large as audience as we can. So handing it over to you, Rob.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm glad everybody's here. Everybody in Coley's chat and my chat. And, if you heard Olivia James in my last show, Olivia James was excited for this show. She's an SSP experiencer, and she said what Brian Minnick brings to the table. She said she wanted everybody to watch because she feels he can really connect the dots, and he has some really important information to say. So with that said, our guest tonight is Brian Minnick. He's a veteran Montauk researcher and explorer who's been investigating the mysteries of Camp Hero and the Montauk Project since the early 1990s, beginning his serious fieldwork in 1994. Wow. Brian has documented rare footage of Montauk and Camp Hero that spans decades, making him one of the most dedicated and consistent voices in Montauk research. His voice has been featured on multiple cable networks, including the History Channel, Travel Channel, Science Channel, and the CW, where he has shared his insights from Montauk's legacy of secrecy, paranormal phenomena, and hidden history. Over the years, Brian has also engaged directly with the authors of the original Montauk book series, comparing firsthand exploration with their accounts. Through his YouTube channel and Montauk Is Strange, co-hosted with fellow researcher Danielle, Brian shares footage, research, and deep dives into the paranormal, UFO activity, cryptids, psychedelics, and mind control programs connected to Long Island's strange and layered history. And he has a new book out called Montauk Is Strange, and I'd like to give him a big warm welcome to the show. On my behalf, on the behalf of Nicole. Brian, thanks so much for coming on, man. How are you? Oh, he's muted.
Hearing that. Can you hear me? I said, wow. Yeah, well, thank you for having me. That's awesome. I could just say, wow, man, thank you. That was written. I'm honored. The glowing intro. But yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm really, I'll have to thank Olivia too. That was really nice of her. And yeah, we have she's helped me a lot as well. Some of this stuff, so I'm sure we'll get into all that.
Brian, you're one of the, like, really, I've always said this, if I were going to somebody to know about Montauk, you would be the person, or anybody came, you would be the person I handed them to, because your knowledge and what you know is so extensive. I'm so excited to bring this all tonight because it really is needed. And a lot of people too, feel like this is you're helping them kind of put together the pieces like the SSP and the Montauk Project and things like that. It's all very helpful. So yes, welcome.
It's kind of surreal. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's connecting the dots. That's one thing I've been focusing on. So I thought that was a good way to cross, all kinds of interests along the way. And there's a wide range of people that contact me with stuff. It's actually amazing. Like fishermen and like, I can't even name all the different parts of like society that have actually contributed to the information, which is cool. Locals, people from far away, people from across the planet, and just little bits of info they give me now, and trying to wrap that all up into a final, by topic. So we'll see what I could do, but I'm going to jam everything I can in there on the second part.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So tell everybody how you got started.
Well, I started going out there, like a lot of Long Islanders as a kid. If even if you weren't from out east or like the Hamptons, families would come from all the way up, like, from New York City, even everywhere, to go to the Montauk Lighthouse. It's like the end. They call it the end. It's like the end of the United States. They say the end of the world, Montauk, but it's called the end. And it's also, a place that's you have one loop and it's on this long peninsula out there. So you got to drive through the Hamptons, past it, and then you get to Montauk. And it used to be its own little island like 2,000 years ago. And some say it was we had volcanic islands under Long Island. So some people say it meant mountain in the sea. So it might have always been there before Long Island, is part of the things that I've dug into. But yeah, so I started going out there with the family, and when I was a kid, and they'd hang out. And then family friends and I, when we got a little older, we were on BMX bikes. So we were like we were riding all over Montauk. Our parents back in the 80s, they didn't really ask where you were. They were like, go away until the end of the day. And when you come back, or don't come back till it's like dinner time. And Yeah, so they didn't care. And there's even those commercials back then. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Because like people literally didn't know where their kids were. So we were like driving anywhere we wanted around Montauk on like BMX and all over by the manor. And then so when we'd go to the lighthouse, we'd explore the point, Montauk Point, and we went. One time I got on the back of their BMX. We went straight into Camp Hero and we found Battery 216, and it was opened. There was like a small body size hole in the cement, and we just all, of course, dove right, climbed right through, and we went through it, but we didn't have flashlights. So after a few feet, when the tunnel angled, it got dark, and through that tunnel, we were like holding the walls and hearing like how the shape of the tunnel sounded. And by the time we got to the other side, there was like a huge hole in the floor, and we decided to cross over it, thinking it wasn't that deep. And we're like stepping on rebar and like hugging the wall. And then we got pulling each other's jackets to get to the other side. And then when we did, we dropped a piece of like, I guess was the broken floor down, and it was like 2 or 3 seconds, or maybe even 4 seconds before it hit water. Remembering from a kid, but that's a couple stories, and it was flooded down there. So we were like, we can't cross back over. So we went further into the darkness, ended up going down through like broken sand, and then climbed out onto the beach, which is right on top of the bluffs. But now that I have the old blueprints and maps, I saw we went down into a signal corps tunnel, which was like the cables for World War II, like the army. And we ended up climbing out through like a manhole, but it was all like broken and sand caved in. So we thought we were in like a cave at the time or something. It was like a Goonies adventure. So that like hooked me. And then when the book came out years later, my friends were passing it around high school. And they were talking about this big radar. And I said, I've been going out there my whole life. I didn't see a radar, because it's really well hidden. So this whole book was about the radar. So even when we first went to Camp Hero, I was trying to point out this bunker that I went in as a kid, but they were just like, everybody was just like focused on the radar only. So that's where we went, or tried to go, until we got there. So yeah, it's been a long time. That was in the 90s. We went back, and then we'd go like a couple times a month for like 2 years. We went like 25 or more times. And that was 94 and 95. And then the rest of the 90s, we went like a scattered amount of times as they started taking all the buildings down, knocking down the radar towers, knocking down the whole base housing. Like they took down like 70% of the buildings there. And that kind of bummed us out, but they were turning it into a park. So there was a lot of people chasing us around. And we got ticketed there. They said it was an arrest, but it was a violation, and released at the scene. But I have that on video, and we were in the tunnels. They were chasing us all day, and we went in the tunnels, made a lot of noise. And when we came out, they were waiting for us. So after that, some people took a break. And over the years, after it became a park, I kind of lost interest. But a lot of people around the world started getting into it at that point in the mid 2000s. So I only got brought back into it really when the History Channel found me somehow through people I passed tapes to long ago, told at a newspaper, told them you have to talk to this guy, and so they put me on this show. And since then, I've been then I made the YouTube channel, and then they hired me to do some research, so I got back into it right away once I started finding all this old stuff I couldn't access back then. So that was a lifelong thing, I guess, with a few breaks in between where I did other things. But yeah, it's definitely been a huge part of my life. And
were you familiar with Preston?
With what? I'm sorry.
Were you familiar with Preston Nichols? I guess he was like the head.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's something wrong with me. Were you familiar with Preston Nichols?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we knew he wrote the book, and as soon as we did, we started investigating the base, looking for things that they talked about in the book. So then when we found certain things like evidence, like the electric meter on the radar, we met a bunch of kids that lived on the base because there's a base housing there. And so we were like running around the base with these kids. They were like the Lost Boys or something, like wild. They were like wild pack of kids, and they broke the meter on the radar. They broke the glass, and then it was replaced like a week later. And my friend, his dad worked at Loco, which was like the Long Island lighting company. It was the power authority back then. And so his dad was higher than a meter reader. He could get like more data. So we got the tag number, and he ran it, and it said like restricted or off limits or classified or something like that. And so this meter has been a thing over the years where people have broken it. And then even on one of the shows I was on CW, that was with Jennifer Marshall, that's Max's mom on Stranger Things. And also, let's see, the point, Tripoli, I'm sorry, Sam Tripoli, I was trying to remember his first name. He's a comedian, and he was on with Joe Rogan a few times. That show in particular, Joe Lofrano, who was also worked at Camp Hero, he showed up the digital meter that they just replaced again. They converted it to an analog into digital. So that was recent, like a few years ago. So there's been a lot of talk about that piece of the radar there. That's what we brought to Preston Nichols. So I wrote a letter to Sky Books, which was Peter Moon's book company. Then I got a call from Peter Moon at my house, but I was still young, and I got freaked out. So I said it was like a neighbor calling. I said it was the neighbor. I gave him an excuse. And then, so he wrote about that in one of the books, that these kids called and then they got scared. I'm like, that was me. I told him years later when I talked to him again that you wrote about. I was like, you called my, because we did write him that letter. So we got these things to go to a public meeting in Huntington, New York, in a bookstore, which is up Long Island, a little more west. And it was in the basement. It was a public meeting. It was like $5. It was called Montauk Night. And we went in there. It was Al Bielek, Preston Nichols, Peter Moon, and Duncan Cameron, and like an audience of people in chairs and a few of my friends. So we went to like 2 or 3 of those. I have the tickets for the stubs for us going in my book in the back, like printed, just so you can see the dates. And so yeah, we brought our pictures up to the table and showed Preston, black and white photos of the radar in different positions, because it was like facing like north, and then it was facing like southeast or whatever. And I had my friend stand in front of the same door with it in different positions, and then so we talked about that, and Preston said it was in freesail mode, like they left it unlocked so it will blow around. And I did have a small conversation with him about that. And also Peter Moon, I've talked to since, like he came with us to Montauk once when we first started our channel. And my friend Michael, Dark Hour Paranormal, was with us, and Danielle, my wife. So all 3 of us were, we met up with him. It was cool. It was surreal. But yeah, the whole crew, I didn't really talk to Duncan because he was very quiet, and Al was also very quiet. He was kind of just there, I know he talked a lot in the past, but at that point he wasn't really speaking much. So it was interesting, and it was cool to be there at that time. But we decided at that moment that, because we heard a lot of stuff there, he even showed us the UFO crash tape that is a big thing on Long Island. He had like rolled out the cart with the TV and the VCR and played that tape for us. It was very interesting, but a lot of the people in the front row were taking up a lot of his time, so we didn't have a lot of time to ask questions. We were just like observing, especially the first time. And in the end, we decided to do everything our own way, go there for ourselves, see it with our own eyes, like boots on the ground, even as kids. And I was the one that was always like, let's document it. My friends were in on it, helping me. We'd borrow like a friend's dad's video camera, which were like a tissue box, old VHS-C or 8mm candy cam that were around in '94. But not everybody had them. It was like only certain families had them. So we take those and try to protect it and not let the father know that we took it, So like by the end of the day, we're copying the tape, erasing it, and putting it back. It was a crazy mission just to get like video back then, for us at that age, at least.
Yeah, Rob was saying that. He's like, he's like, some of these videos, he's like, are from VHS. And I said, yeah. They are. That's the best part. I was like, before AI comes and rolling in, everything. I said, no, that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. You have that.
Yeah, over the years, I've had to go from one VHS to another, and then to DVD, DVD-R, and then on to like MP4, and buy all the equipment to run it through the computer and stuff like that. So, but I preserved it because I knew it was a part of my life, but also I was hanging on to it because I thought everybody was recording this stuff, honestly, back then. I figured all the explorers were also recording and taking pics. And people did take pictures and they share them with me. And I've even shared a few people's things that they've sent in, but most of the stuff on our channel is ours, On my channel is stuff that we filmed, either me, friends. I've gone with a lot of different people. So it's been a wild time, the whole time, gathering all this stuff, that's for sure.
And your YouTube is Montauk Is Strange, correct, Brian?
Yeah, Montauk Is Strange. And that's pretty much everything I have. It's either my Gmail or the Instagram or YouTube, or even the name of my book, The Archives. It'll be part 1 and 2 of it. But I've stuck with that just to keep it, easy to find, I guess.
That's
Yeah.
Awesome. That
What
is
would you say
awesome.
was what's one of the most like striking or well, how do I want to say this? What's one of the most striking or unexplained discoveries you personally documented on the grounds at Montauk? Would you say? Does it deal with underground? Have you like went underground there too?
Yeah, we've been underground and even under subsurface parts of the underground, and several buildings have underground there. I haven't gotten into all of them or even all the bunkers, but I've been in a few, and that's always been to me very exciting. I love the underground tunnel network. That's a big part of it. But I've been writing about the paranormal part of Montauk. There's a huge UFO history over Montauk. There's ancient Native American stuff, a lot of history and legend. There's a lot of colonial history there. Like it's insane. So I like to mix all these things up, dive into the very ancient Earth, but also the legend and lore from the early internet when this story first came out. I've been going back to the Wayback Machine and digging up all these things I printed out when the internet was first out. I used to like literally print the internet just to make sure this stuff wouldn't disappear. So I have like all these old articles and blogs. So I've been trying to find those and then write about those to encapsulate that part of it. So the whole legend of it, plus the actual history, of that land, and just compiling it all together and looking for those connections. That's like my favorite thing. So the best evidence, I mean, when we were kids, when we found the LSD rooms, that was insane. But the whole tape from the whole day where they're chasing us you keep hearing this repeating signal on that tape over and over, like every couple minutes, we'll catch something that's interference into the camera, but it sounds like a repeating call for help, like a distress message. And I was thinking it's like, they talk about the underground being destroyed. It really sounds like something like that, but whatever it is, it repeats throughout the tape. It's the same tape that catch us, and we see things in the tunnel. And it was just that whole day, like as one, a lot of those whole days, the experience itself was a whole series of strange events. So those kind of add up as one thing, like one piece of evidence in a way. But I'd say the LSD room photos, and video that we have documenting 4 rooms on the upstairs of a house, all with 4 psychedelic decor, like 2 are wallpaper, 2 are painted, and those are a huge part of 1961. What they did there was combining psychedelics with electronic mind control, which is essentially microwave. Microwave is what the radar is. All radars are using microwave band, and they're bouncing off and getting a return. So Montauk's SAGE radar is frequency diversity, so it oscillates through the frequencies, so you can't jam it or track it. But it also can pick and choose what frequency you want to set it on to fine tune mood control. So like cataloging over the years what frequencies affect what, this one makes you agitated, this one makes you relaxed, and slowly cataloging it over time. I have the documents recently I found for the project that supports that, all from government websites downloads. And just backing this up further, I have the whole thing for 1961 all plotted out. And essentially them saying, we want to do this. We want to combine microwaves with psychedelics and see what that does. And so the rooms are interesting. I'm going to dive into the patterns and, where they come from now a little bit. And that'll be it. I'm just wanted to document it fully. But that was just the beginning of mind control at Montauk. And maybe that wasn't even the beginning, because there was some interesting stuff going on in World War II. And, even earlier, they had the whole town became a military base in like 1939. So there was a Navy base there with a torpedo base and submarines. Montauk was this huge Army gunnery, like huge cannons that can shoot submarines like 20 miles out and sink ships like, battleships or whatever. But also in the radar base moved in the Air Force in the core of the old Army base and became this huge radar site that was so important. They had offshore towers on oil platforms, like with radars. They had that, that you ever see the plane with the dish on the bottom with the circular, it's called the EC-121. It's a spy aircraft, has a plate on the bottom, kind of like a circular dish is the best way. And so there was only 4 of those on the East Coast. One of those, the radio stations to talk to them and receive it was at Montauk. They had the Texas Towers. That was the offshore platforms. They had like every kind of communication and radar there. And back then, you just see the big radar these days, the huge SAGE radar tower. But back then there were all these metal radar towers around it with round bubbles, like white bubbles, inflated rubber bubble domes around a radar that either turns or goes up and down like this for a height finder. So it was a whole bunch of radars on Radar Hill where the radar is now, but people only really see the one that's left. So that always disappointed me, because when I first got there, all those metal towers are still there, and we'd go in those, and those had deep basements. So there's just so much there that's just kind of gone, and that's why I always wanted to document it too, because I know it's disappearing and being sealed up constantly. So,
Yeah, I bet. I bet that the government's hands involved that it's definitely probably disappearing. We had a question from Rodney out there. He wants to know,
oh yeah,
was the USS let's see, Eldridge ever at the Old Navy base?
they say that it was actually across town, like on the other side of Montauk, like as a peninsula, not in the bay, Fort Palm Bay. That's where the Navy base is, but it would be on the ocean side. It's where they say it appeared, over the biorhythm when it linked to Montauk, and this is according to the original stories, put forth by Al Bielek and Preston Nichols, pretty much. So we did look for that when in 2023 on August 12th, when it was supposed to happen. That's the 40-year biorhythm. So it was like 1943, Philadelphia experiment. 1983, that's the end of the Montauk Project on August 12th. And then 2023 is when we all gathered there, and there was like 30 people, different channels, everybody collaborated. And we had been going there each year before that anyway. So it's like we met up with them and merged, and it was really cool. But people were out there on boats looking for it. There was a huge fog that rolled in that day, so that was interesting. And even when we did one of the TV shows, I think it was not the Travel Channel, the History Channel, we went up on the bluffs there where Al Bielek said that would be seen, and they did some testing for the show. I had some different ideas on different stuff to test too, so they did listen to some of mine. So I was just happy with that. Like in front of the radar, that was my main thing. But I don't think that the Eldridge was ever supposed to be at the Navy base. To answer the question, it was supposed to be off the coast of Montauk in the ocean there, which is strange because I did the local newspaper, Dan's Papers. I got to talk to Dan himself, the owner, on his podcast, and he told me a story how this Navy cruiser actually beached itself on the rocks at Montauk, and it was on its way to Philadelphia. And it was huge. It was there for like a couple months. They had to make inflatable things to get it off the rocks, but a chain snapped and one guy lost his life, trying to free the boat. And then they said, so I thought that was really interesting coincidence that he mentioned that. I had never heard that story. So maybe there was a battleship that appeared there for a moment, who knows? But that one seems to be documented, at least in some of the old stories. But those kind of things, Philadelphia experiment's really hard to track down because it was so long ago, like anything in World War II. And the ties to Montauk, I try to look at the origins, where they come from, also the original story. And I believe Al Bielek is the one that made the tie to Montauk from Philadelphia experiment.
That's huge. That's huge right there. And you've gone through and you have accounts of people too from there that have been at Montauk, that have been in the area, that have seen different things happen there.
Yeah, I've been doing that my whole life, asking people what they think of Montauk, or have they been there, and usually they have a good story, something strange or something interesting to tell me. And I added 30 of those in the first book, and I have now like 40 more. So I have probably going to add 45, so there's 75 of those, and then there's 75 field reports. Those are like trips to the base, kind of like a journal style, but like the people's stories are, they're anonymous. Most of the time they ask me to not reveal who they are, but I just describe them and what they saw and what they relayed to me. So that's all like word of mouth, that part. You just got to trust me on those. But the rest is documented. And when I write the chapters, I add as many sources as I can, and they're all in the back. Like the first book has 260 in the bibliography or sources cited. Try to use legit stuff for like the chapters, just to back up when I have something. So it's kind of like different parts, like different approaches throughout it. And I just wanted to finish. Yeah, the stories from people lately since I wrote the first book are amazing. I just cannot wait to share them. It's really hard for me not to like go all day and just tell everybody this stuff that I'm getting sent, images. People are going in the underground tunnels right now, and I just got pictures from people that went in place I didn't even realize was there. So it's really exciting, and I just can't wait to like document all this stuff that I'm getting.
Gosh, that wow. is
Well, do you?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
want
do you
to put
think
a
something's
stop
still
to it
going
right.
on there, Brian?
I don't really would see, like, I can't understand how it would be at this point, but unless it's a deep underground military base like a dome, obviously, then you could do anything because it's cut off from the surface completely. You don't enter it from the surface. You know, you take like a maglev train to it. Even like from some random house in like in the middle of a nice neighborhood, you go in, the whole house interior is just like, you know, big freight elevator and like drive-in elevator and staircase and vents. So you could just disguise a normal entrance far away and go into a facility like that. And so there's rumors that they connected B&L to Montauk a long time ago. B&L did invent the maglev train, the magnetic levitation train in 1968. B&L, if anybody's not familiar, is Brookhaven National Labs, which has always been rumored to connect to Montauk, as well as Plum Island, because all three were former Army World War II bases. So B&L was Camp Upton, Plum Island was Fort Terry, and Camp Hero, the Montauk Air Force Station was Camp Hero, the Army base. So it's interesting. So they do, you know, that's what Mike, my friend, calls the Long Island Triangle, whatever's inside of those three bases. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's crazy on Long Island outside of that too. I mean, you have Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower right up the road there. That was where he transmitted free energy, or was building it to transmit free energy. That famous picture of Tesla's tower you see, that was very close to Brookhaven Labs on Long Island on the North Shore. And there's a nuclear power plant near there. There were like missile bases around, radar bases. We had like a naval, it's a naval weapons factory where they built F-14s. So that's here. And then also there's all kinds of military industrial facilities, but most of them are closed right now. Like they were in the past here. But so a lot of families and family friends of a lot of people that I know have ties to a lot of these bases and work. So I was lucky to get a lot of inside info from a lot of people that worked at these places as well. Kind of like grew up with them literally around me everywhere. So, you know, that's one thing that, you know, I had to my benefit, and I appreciate that part. I'm grateful for that. But I mean, I love living here anyway. So, and Montauk's beautiful. I love going there. But yeah, there is a dark, you know, side, and there's a strong energy there in general of the land. So, and a deep history. So it's hard to like figure out if they came to this spot to build these, you know, these installations for a reason, because some of the very beginnings of the U.S. have to do with Montauk Point. Like the first thing the United States ever built as a country was the Montauk Lighthouse. The first public U.S. public works project we built as a country was the lighthouse, and that was the guiding light to the New World for people that were coming from Europe. And it was later replaced with the Statue of Liberty, which is holding the torch of the illumination. So like George Washington commissioned, as you know, he's like one of the most well-known Freemasons, and he commissioned the Montauk Lighthouse as that same symbolic like torch that's held in the Olympics, etc. So you can see the importance. It was like one of the first things, and that part is something, I don't know, ancient about it, I feel like. But that's just a guess. You know, I have nothing really more to go on than a few things I strung together. But so yeah, I think that they chose this place for like high science experiments later on possibly because of some of those energies attached to the land, is what I was trying to get at.
Wow.
You know, Aleister Crowley also was here in 1918, and he said it was his favorite place on Earth. And I know he did work for some intelligence agencies in, I think it was the OTO. So maybe he was sent to scout out spots because they thought he'd be able to feel them, you know. I'm like, oh yeah, Montauk, that's the place, you know. And okay,
I didn't know that. I did
who
not
knows?
know that. That's
Yeah, it's actually,
telling.
I didn't believe it until I went and found the actual part of the book where he, in his own writing, you know, a little piece, a scan from it. And then I'm like, wow, that's incredible. So he wrote a few more lines about Montauk that he went there on a mountain climbing expedition. And we don't have any mountains. There's like really big bluffs, you know, straight 80 or 90 foot, kind of sometimes sheer wall bluffs. But there's no mountains, you know, some big hills. And so it was interesting because there's always these rumors of pyramids in ancient Montauk, so, you know, all of this stuff has always intrigued me. I've tried to read about every little aspect that I've heard about myself. And of course, I've gone through cycles of believing in things and then not, and also crossed many things off the list. And along the way, I thought I believed in certain things and then had to tell myself I was wrong and say, obviously this is wrong. So, and then correct myself. So, but I'm pretty open when it comes to guessing, and you know, other people's experiences, I usually let them, because obviously I can't fit that with by going there, asking everyone, and then digging in, researching. That's enough right there to fill me up with. I feel like I have to share it, and then I'll be like, I could start diving into some other stuff once I share it all.
I love how you connect the
Yeah,
dots.
what about
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about the paranormal aspect? And you even mentioned there's a Native American lore to it as well. Maybe
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of
The
people might
Montauk.
not know about.
It's amazing history. Like the Montauk tribe, they were the most powerful. They were the chief of all the Long Island tribes. So there were 13 tribes, and Montauk, you know, they're the furthest east, and the tribes furthest west were in Brooklyn and Queens, which are only physically on Long Island. I'm not, you know, people. People like to. That's a big distinction here if you're local, but the island itself, you know, the Canarsie tribe that was in Rocco, and the Rockaway tribe, they would take their canoes all the way out to Montauk. So all the tribes on Long Island would go all the way to Montauk to Council Rock, which is this huge rock at the Montauk Manor, and they would have their meetings there. Because so anyway, the Montauk tribe, they've been here for 10,000 years, and yeah, they were a pretty powerful tribe. They had like some battles with Connecticut and stuff, and some alliances with some of the colonists that were here. But there's some very interesting lore that I found. Right very close to where I live, they found an old relic that had a Thunderbird painted on it, and I've never heard of a Thunderbird around here, only in the Midwest. You know, there's only one mention of some kind of large bird on Long Island, and that would be like Mount Misery up west, where they mentioned the Mothman at one point. But yeah, there's no mention of a large Thunderbird at all, which was cool. And then there was supposed to be this dark spirit that influenced people to run amok and like go crazy, which I thought was interesting. They wrote a lot about that. And there was another one. Well, there's a very popular one where the devil would jump across the Long Island Sound, and the LI Sound was actually named Devil's Belt. And all these places in Connecticut are like devils. Every name devils. There's so many towns named that, and there's supposed to be these rocks here with like hoof print and a footprint in them, and one of them's in the museum in Montauk. So apparently he's jumping across the Sound and influencing people. It was very strange. And then there was another legend about the horned serpent of this other town they mentioned, of Miller Place. It's like a town on Long Island, but that's a legend from around the world, the horned serpent. So that was really interesting. That showed up in many cultures, many continents. So, and being that this is written a long time ago, like hundreds of years ago, maybe 500 years ago, I thought that was interesting to hear. Also, one of the early Montauk chiefs he was like 7 foot something tall, and his name was like Long Knife or Manga Tuxi. He had like a huge army and stuff. So there was some really cool like history and like eras they described, and some kind of very interesting like paranormal parts. So I included some of those in the first book, but I didn't want to go too deeply into their lore out of respect. Like, I don't want to mistranslate it or missay it. So I just was given the basics of like the land with all respect, you know, because the tribe is still active and they've been fighting for their sovereignty lately. So I support them on that for sure. Because I did discuss the land grabs that were used to steal their land in order to build Camp Hero itself. And I listed all the court trials and the legal documents and like the names of the actual court battles in Supreme Court. So I put them in the story because it's part of the story. It was brilliant how they stole different pieces of land in order to build like railroad tracks first, and then power things, and then like, you know, optimal places. So it was over time. That's why it was so kind of evil genius in a way, you know, more evil than genius, but using money to do it, I suppose. But yeah, so that's all part of the history. So I want to add all that too. But now, you know, if I could come up with a few more final thoughts on time travel is the hardest one. That's for sure.
The time travel is too. That's so elusive. Like that's left that. So what about the Montauk chair? Everybody always wants to know about the Montauk chair. Have you ever come in contact with the Montauk chair or talked to anybody who's come in contact with it?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I met one person in all my life that said that they found it. And it was like 2 summers ago. And I met a gentleman from Montauk and his wife walking, an older gentleman. He was a grandfather of somebody who had gone into the tunnels with friends and said they found it. Later, he invited me over to his house in Montauk. and told me a little more about it. But his granddaughter is very terrified about it, and she showed him the pictures, and he described them to me, and she deleted it according to her off her phone. I mean, I would always make a copy, of course, but that's just me. It wouldn't actually hard delete something, but if that's the story, that's fine. I was totally respectful, but they said I wanted to know where, what building was more important to me, because I have my pretty much guess of how it would be possible to put somewhere. So other than that, by his description, I did write up, the story, but it's very brief. And I made a sticker recently with the Montauk chair, just based on because I finally wanted to see what does this thing actually look like. So I based on descriptions of it and what people said the components were, what it was made of. And I kind of made something just because I was making a series of stickers. So that was definitely one of them. But who knows? I mean, nobody that I know has ever showed me or anything solid. And I could only guess that from what I understand, it was still down there. And maybe it still is. I'm not sure, because I think somebody mixed it up saying that they took it out of there, but I don't see how you can remove something that's huge like that. So it's most likely they photographed it and left it in place. So I think it's in a certain building, and recently that's the building people sent me pictures of kids getting deeper and deeper in these tunnels in video. So maybe they'll find it again. Who knows if that's the right place. I'm all for people finding stuff. I just I can't advise them to do so. I should advise against it pretty much at this point. With all local press and everything. So I don't want anybody to get hurt, of course. But the building was dangerous enough to begin to go in, because I went in with my friends and it was like black mold in there. It felt like really bad. But once you get down there, the air is untouched. So as long as it's not too much like CO2 or whatever, which I don't think it should be.
So if anybody gets stuff, do you want them to email it to you, or how do you go about if they want, let's say they go on their own, we've told them it's dangerous. We said it's dangerous, but they went and they want to be exploratory people, and they want, if they get stuff, where do you want, how is the process? Where do they submit that to?
Oh, okay. I mean, you can send it to my email, is a place where you could attach large files. Up to 25 gigabytes on Gmail, I believe.
So it's Montauk Is Strange at Gmail.
Montauk Is Strange at gmail.com. Sorry about that. Cool. Yeah. No, I mean, that's great. And how the people have found me in the past, I don't know how they found me, but they were moved to come and share it. So I appreciate, each and every one of you that has shared stuff with me. And I will include as much as, you want me to or allow me to. Otherwise. It's been great.
Yeah, no, that's it. And people really, I mean, everybody rants and raves about you. And it's just amazing. And you're keeping that anonymity. So that's awesome too. So that's greatly appreciated.
That's wild. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's fun too. I like it, but also it's like a duty, so hopefully I'll feel like it's finished at one point. Like when I do the second one, I'm like, all right, there's everything. At least that's a feeling I hope to achieve at one point. But thank you to everybody who said that. I mean, that's crazy. Each time when I see it, it makes my day if I see something like that. So
yeah, and I'm watching the count on the show go way up. So this is awesome, Brian. That tells you how much people are interested in this. So I'm sitting at about 260 right now on my end live. So that's pretty amazing.
Well,
wow,
real good.
What about your book? Did you want to tell us a little bit about, give us a preview of the book? That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have usually a physical copy I would grab, but I just sent it out to a friend. So I will, basically the book is in sections. It's your normal, there are chapters where I dive into, the chapters are kind of grouped by a topic. And in that chapter, there's a whole bunch of different subtopics about Montauk. And I dive into those, connect things, cite a few references and some sources in each one. But in between the chapters, it's kind of it's not a regular book where it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. It's chapter 1, and then I go into the field reports, which are our trips there, starting at the very first one in 1988 when we went in that bunker I told you about as kids. That's the first field report. And that goes all the way up through the 90s, all those times we went, down to the date, every person who was with me, what entrance we went in, what position the radar was in, what happened that day, who chased us, what buildings we found for the first time. So it's a lot of like first time stuff, you know, and then we get up to the point where they close it down, knock the buildings, and it's a park. And now the new one starts, and it's goes through like a few TV shows that I was doing before YouTube, and then they came to me and found me, so I went on them. But then I started the channel, so a lot of those YouTube trips, we were going there like bam, 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 again, like the 90s every time, a couple times a month sometimes, and at least once a month for a few years. So with a whole bunch of different people, started collabing and taking people on tours from around. It was, you know, it was a lot of fun, and we went a lot of times, found a lot of cool stuff. So I'm going to write about those all. That's like the field reports. But then there's all those stories you were talking about where I talked to locals, and now I've talked to people from all over, you know, from all points of life. So that's going to be finishing that part of that. And then I have, you know, the more chapters. But in the book, there's also, in between all the chapters, there's maps of Montauk, starting at like the very first discovery, like colonial maps, all through the military maps. So every building that the military's put on, like the Army map, the Air Force map, all throughout history, and like the blueprints. I have all the technical blueprints from all the bunkers and all the satellite bunkers that are scattered like around Montauk and even outside Montauk in other towns, parts of Camp Hero that were supporting Camp Hero. And we explored some of those on the channel as well. And then, you know, besides maps, blueprints, I got photo galleries. There's 3 of them. So one of them is for like all our old trips there. Then there's another gallery for like the history stuff. So it's all historic photos. And then another gallery for the chapters. So there's like 3 different photo galleries. And then there's a whole history, military history. It's kind of like a one-time thing. I'm not doing that again in the second one, but it's like a chronological, kind of like a report for school, but it's like by era and different branches of the military. Every piece of equipment they ever had, every like radar, every gun, every, you know, type of armament that I could find, I put in chronological order, because it helped me figure out other things that actually line up with the legend really well. So, and diving into knowing Preston and all them when we were kids, and like going there, what prompted us to go. That was like kind of, you know, when we were younger, and then what drove us to keep going through those years. And then just diving into all the subtopics and like, you know, microwave, electronic mind control. And I have all the UFO reports from over Montauk in the back. You know, there's a series of them. Even some of the documents they were sending, they got a UFO with the Montauk radar and then sent it right to the White House in DC. They thought it was a Russian bomber at the time. It was going way too fast. It was like 4,000 knots, and it crossed the US in like minutes. They passed it from one radar station to the next in like Ohio, then like Wisconsin. It was crazy. So these documents are like real things. I got locals, newspapers, stories about paranormal things, like the lighthouse is supposed to be haunted. People saw this thing on the beach. I have cryptid stuff, the Montauk Monster, the Plum Island, the body that washed up on Plum Island that had long fingers and trepanation holes in its head. And I don't know if you know that one, but there's a series of anything weird and strange in the whole area tied to Montauk, and I tried to jam it all in there. And there's more for the second half at least, where I can fill it up to that level. So
Wow. Wow.
and then
You've
I'll
like
then I'll
covered it
take a break.
all. Yeah. How do you keep it all organized? I mean, that's amazing.
I
But
don't. It's such a disaster. When I look for a file, I have to search for like 30 minutes. Like I can't remember what I named it. I have like so many hard drives. I don't know. It's just a mess. My desktop's a total disaster. Like a thing blew off, you know. So I am not organized. That's the worst part.
oh, well, yeah,
I
but you've
just
got a
wing it all.
mound of stuff. I don't know how you possibly could be. I was gonna ask. I
Yeah, it's
mean,
true.
you'd have to be like, I mean, because all of that type of information, I'm sure laying it out and putting it into that type of order is not easy. That is not easy.
Yeah. I mean, well, I've had to make systems to do it, and some of the things I go over in my head, you know. So I thought of, and I actually make little notepads and write. And sometimes I go back and read them. I'm like, I have no clue what this means. I'm like, all right, well, that's like a lost thought, because I wrote something down I thought probably was brilliant, and then I can't even understand what it said. So it's a mess. I'll make it into something though, for sure.
That's yeah. No, I hear ya. I'm controlled chaos, so that's
Yeah.
totally understandable.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
totally understandable. So you've been out to Montauk how many times now?
Well, I wrote 75 exploration reports and stopped, and we haven't been back. But I was there several times before I started writing them, you know, as a kid. All these times kind of blurred together. Like, even used to go on a couple school trips, like to the lighthouse or something. And, you know, I think my grandmother used to take me out there so I could buy like dried seahorses and like starfish, you know, or shark teeth or something. And so I was there a bunch of times in Montauk, but I started exploring there officially I made sure those reports were like good explorations. So 75 of those. And I kind of said I was not stopping going, but changing the way I document them from here out. I'll do something a little different. So there's just going to be 75 total now of the field reports. But I've been there probably like 80 times, something like that, at least.
80 times. That's a lot of times. That is
80
a lot.
days. It's not like you could go in and turn around in an hour. It's like this is like an 8-hour day, So, and a couple nights, and I've been there at night. We stayed at one time when we were in like high school. We went up on the roof, me and like 4 or 5 other friends, and we just laid up there for like 5 hours because the stars were crazy. So, actually, we only thought it was like an hour or two, but it was like 5 hours. So when we looked, we were like, oh my god, it's like morning. So. But yeah, it was wild. I don't remember walking to the radar or back through the streets. It was just like automatic kind of. And we didn't bring flashlights.
What do you suspect is going on with the UFO activity? Do you think it's like it's government? Do you think there's like a military, like a clandestine base around there somewhere? Or do you think it's like aliens? Do you think it has something to do with the ley lines in the area that are bringing UFOs in? Like, do you have a theory behind that or anything? Or do you think it just happens to be like just a coincidence that they're showing up?
Yeah, I have a couple theories, but they're probably not the same as like, everybody, because I think ley lines would be a good guess, like you said, except for recently a friend sent me like a ley line map, Google map type of thing that has every kind of like hundreds of different overlays. And I can see there's no major ley lines. If anything else, Montauk's in the void between a triangle of ley lines, perfectly in the center. So it's like an anti-ley line almost, which could mean something. So I don't think for that. But what I do have a lot of, other than those recorded ones from the radar, fishermen and people reporting green lights coming out of the water, green glows around Montauk, and USOs coming up. And the fishermen usually don't want to report it because they go out there to make their money. They just want to catch fish and do their feed their family, and they basically that'll bring heat to you. People think you're nuts, so they stay away from talking about it. But a lot of people have posted this online, so I have the little screenshots. People have sent me stories. Actually, I have a friend who just told me her and her mom saw the same thing, and she's gonna give me like a little interview about it real quick. But I've documented a whole bunch that seem to come out of the water, and it seems to be those drones, how they shifted colors, and they really remind me of squid and octopus, how they can shapeshift so fast. And as you know, like octopus have 50,000 strands of DNA, like double us, and they have like 9 hearts and 9 brains and 5 hearts. And squids and jellyfish have those illuminating like LED lights that shift through like the rainbow. Drones also had that. So I don't know. I was thinking things that are in the sea really resemble some of these things that are coming out of the water. Maybe they are like living biological things that live in the oceans. Who knows? That's one theory about some of the green lights that they've reported coming out of the water. The other ones that are seen overhead are strange because we have them in our spherical probe-looking balloon. It looks like like a balloon or whatever. But I got one on video flying, and then after a while, it just shoots straight up into the sky. And I have that on one of the videos right over battery 216. Another one is I have some silver discs and some pictures too, like just in the background over Montauk. So it's really strange. I really don't have a theory as to what they might be unless there's an ancient significance to Montauk, like an ancient civilization, like maybe even very long ago, talking like millions of years, something we can't understand that's under the water on the continental shelf. Because that used to be when the water came up 300 feet at one point in the Younger Dryas after it, when the glaciers melted, the water rose. But under there on the continental shelf used to be like the beachfront. So like the beach was like 50 miles that way. So out there, I think there could be ancient civilizations of importance. Maybe they're trying to revisit it. I don't know. I really don't have a theory. There was supposed to be a UFO in the Montauk Project Experiments in Time book by Preston Nichols. They said they had a UFO underground at Montauk. They didn't explain why, but I was imagining it was supposed to be shot down and reverse technology type of thing. So all those guesses, I really have nothing to go on. So I kind of wrote that in the book too. I've actually had people use that as now that the targets have already been guessed, remote viewing targets, I put a symbol in the book, a hidden symbol, and then I had people review the envelope with that symbol in it. And that was linked to the UFO underground because I had nothing to write about and I just wanted to know what they could tell me. Did get some interesting stuff, which I will put in the second one though. That kind of blew my mind about that. Wasn't at Montauk, but so yeah, there's been really interesting things that came out of all this stuff, but no understanding of why there'd be so much activity over the skies there, except for its importance in general.
Oh, I bet. We have a question too from Woo Rider DG Derek. He always has a question. He said, Brian, has anyone noticed anyone following him from his research that has been done on Montauk, or has he documented it? If so,
Like people like actually trying to like deter me, basically.
yeah,
In that way.
I would assume yes, probably.
Yeah. In the past, I used to try to I may have noticed things like that, but I decided to be naive, and if there was a threat, I just didn't get the message. Like, it totally missed me over my head. Like, that's my approach at it. So like, even if they were trying really hard, maybe they're getting frustrated because I really didn't pick up on it, and I was choosing not to if there was.
Good for you. Good for you.
No problem.
Yes.
They have to come right up to me and explicitly say it, pretty much.
Yeah, that's good because the attacks can be endless, and I think especially if you start to play into it, a lot of it, they want to trigger that fear in you.
It was definitely times where I felt like things shut off at the right time, and there's definitely weird synchronicities that make me question things a lot. But yeah, not to give it credence, and because I'm going to keep going anyway, so I figure just ignore it if there is. But nothing really major to write about, so it's been okay.
Well, that's good. Let's hope it stays that way.
Yep.
Do you think there's a connection? So where you're at, and you're talking about how there's kind of the triangle of different areas of Plum Island and Montauk and all of that. Do you think they're connected underwaterway?
Oh, you mean the three bases that I mentioned?
Yes.
Well, two of them definitely were supposed to be connected under land, like by maybe a magnetic levitation train, as the speculations have gone, and that would be the lab and Montauk. But Plum Island is out to sea, and island. Yeah, I've heard tunnels that they have tunnels under water to block island from Montauk. But when I look at the ocean floor, I don't see any raised structures or anything, which is crazy. I did find what looks like an ancient city right off Montauk Point, and in the center of it is this thing called the Great Eastern Rock. It's like described as a spire, kind of like an obelisk or like Washington Monument type of thing, and it actually ripped the bottom of the biggest boat ever, like before the Titanic. It was called the Great Eastern. It's called Great Eastern Rock. But when I looked at that rock in the center, there's all these mountains in rows like a city. So I put that in the book. I got screenshots, nice color ones. The book is black and white for now. I'd like to do another one in color. But I since go back and try to find it, and they blurred the whole beneath Long Island, the southern shore of Long Island, where I found two mountains that look like a pyramid too. And that city right off Montauk Point looks like it's all blurred. It is. I cannot find it on any platform, any mapping service. It's gone. But the rest of like the coast, starting at Jersey going down, is all clear again. And so that one pyramid that I thought I found, like a mound underwater, it's right on 42 and 71 latitude, exact cross point. You know how like latitude and longitude marks have like degrees and seconds of like digits, and this is on 0.0000, and the other one's like the exact intersection. So if you zoom all the way out on like Google Earth, it's still one of the main grids, and that's where this thing is. Also, the only earthquake ever on Long Island land itself was right there nearby in that peak stretch. It's like a mile away, and that's the only Long Island earthquake on the mainland of Long Island ever. So I think there's something about that place still, and everybody says there's a portal at Montauk. Of course, that would be a good explanation for UFOs or anything else. Vortex portal. There's all kinds of guesses on that, and it's a lot of guessing for me, but I'll try to figure it out a little more and the differences between them all. So I'm kind of ruling out the ley lines for now. But there's supposed to be a planetary cross point at Montauk. It's like a traffic circle, but it's been widely speculated, and it's part of like the entire story. And there's also some other spots there that are supposed to have certain, like this place called the Void. It's supposed to be like devoid of feeling and sound and everything. So yeah, there's some energy type locations that I will still write about as well. But I really don't have like a solid guess on those, of course. Of course, we bring all our gadgets there and try to test every which, like EMF meters and infrared cameras and ultraviolet and, thermals and every kind of gadget we can get, but I don't spend a lot on them. I'll get like the cheap version or make it myself, certain things. And then
Wow,
I just,
yeah, that was going to be my next question. You hit it like right there. And so, I mean, there's a lot of phenomena going on there for it to all be coincidental. So you think they found the spot and Montauk was there because of the spot,
yeah, I
maybe
think
in
they built,
itself?
I do like trace back in history, and one of the FDR, uh, one of our presidents, obviously, he's one of our most powerful presidents that we became a superpower under. His best friend was living in a windmill house, which is right where Battery 216 was built. And next door was the biggest bootlegging basement on Long Island. And in town was one of the richest men that built all of Montauk. He also built Miami Beach, the city of Miami Beach, and the first road across the U.S. from New York to San Francisco called the Lincoln Highway. And his name's Carl Fisher. He built all of Montauk, and they say he died of psoriasis of the liver. So they said he was a big drinker. The speculation is that he had prohibition tunnels built from the Montauk Manor and his tower, which he built, and then out to Montauk Point. And I do find some evidence of this on the maps and from old pictures and in history. So the Navy took over all his stuff in World War II. So that means the Montauk Manor, the tower, and the tunnel out to Montauk. So yeah, they definitely seized upon people they saw that were already starting stuff and then continued it. I think they knew ahead of time that they were building there for a reason, going way back to when they made the lighthouse, even marking that spot as an important place to build the first thing as the U.S. And it's symbolic too. So whatever it is, it's something to do with some old importance of the land, I believe. But who knows? That doesn't explain all of the other stuff that happened there, of course. And it got out of hand, I guess, once they discover certain things. The idea is to like weaponize it, of course. So.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what happens too. Wow.
Yeah.
That, I mean, all underneath, underground, I guess, is there a certain point? I mean, just do you go under? Is there so many layers underneath the Montauk that you've gotten to, or how far down under have you gotten?
I've only got like a floor or two below because a lot of the stuff is so flooded, especially like the World War II tunnels. There are deeper sections, like we dropped that brick down there. So I've only been, and then the Air Force, there are tunnels that go down. There's buildings that have 4 stories below. The computer building right next to the radar, that one especially, they had vacuum tubes on one floor, air conditioning and generators on the bottom. And then later they gutted all that stuff out when they put in the Buick computer. Didn't need vacuum tubes. And then I have a picture with all that stuff out front, like all the computer things. But yeah, that had air traffic control in there. So Montauk was like an air traffic control base for fighter jets and all kinds of stuff. They would scramble the fighter jets and mini nukes, tactical nukes that were here in the Pine Barrens. And they'd, if groups of fighter jets came in, they'd send off missiles. So Montauk was like the main control for communication, radar, and operations. So they had some serious like computer systems. One of the biggest computers of all time actually was installed at Montauk, called the Buick. And that building especially has, because in order to operate that thing, you need those underground floors. Same with the radar. So yeah, there's an extensive base. And then later in the Cold War, they were forced to build fallout shelters. So they have deeper additions that were used for nuclear fallout. And I have all those on record and documented. So that's how I build, going down deeper. If they're going to do stuff later, they're going to convert those old unused portions that are deep enough. And if you're going to expand into a dome, you would probably break through on one of those deepest spots you have and attach to a rail. And from there, make a deep vertical shaft that goes down with an elevator, freight elevator. And because you can't build right under a base. Like if you think about it, like if here's a base, and you dig right under it, it's all going to collapse. But if you put like a straw, like a straw-shaped deep shaft down through all the bedrock, because the bedrock's down there 1,000 feet down under Long Island. Most people think it's just sand, but there's like bedrock really deep, really below 1,000 feet of quartz sand. So once you get down to that, you could punch into that and expand outward horizontally, no problem. So I think it would be a break between what's on historical records, like World War II, Cold War, Air Force stuff, and then expanding downward, like maybe a level to receive trains and equipment, but the rest would go straight down. And then you could have a massive base down there. But you need a place to bring in equipment constantly, and there always has to be ventilation. So I've never been able to find any ventilation around Montauk, but of course it would be stealth, and it would be pretty big. I mean, it could be venting out horizontally through the bluffs, right in the ocean wind. They have flues for water because you have that massive tide. Yesterday there was like 25-foot waves that went down there just to check out the Hurricane Erin on the coast on the ocean here. And it was insane. Like the waves, they were huge. But so there's things, that flow like underwater streams and stuff. So you could definitely get like flowing water down there in a base. I've heard there's underwater submarine bases and everything. And even in the books, they say it's an underground alien base at Camp Hero and the Navy base. In the later internet speculation that was another alien base, and they were battling between the Navy and the Air Force with their own secret operatives and counter agents, counter-programmed to attack the other, like essentially Montauk boys versus Montauk boys, and branches of the military versus each other. This was like a big part of that lore. So I want to dig all that back up and spell that all out too, just to like put it down on paper for a final time and get it out there.
Wow,
it's a crazy amount of stuff.
Do you think it's all connected underground? Do you think it goes real deep, and like, do you think it's all somehow connected? Like, some people say there's maglev trains that run under there and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that the big facility would be linked to another big facility, possibly like B&L, and even for that project to be initiated, it probably sprung from that lab, honestly. But that's pure speculation. But like, knowing the way they do it, they wouldn't just be independent unless it was like truly black budget and they had no connections to any other facilities. Then I think they would have to be somewhat on the on the records somewhere to be connected to a facility that is on the records in a big way. But there could be an independent facility that's totally off the record, and that could be Montauk as well. But I did hear that it was connected and sprung from B&L, but also has connected underground. There's another book about it's Dulce, Area 51, and Montauk, the something triangle they call it, and they say that Montauk is connected to Dulce and Denver International under a series of tunnels.
Denver International Airport too, because they say that is a big underground network as well.
I have an old book from like the 90s, and it was called Underground Bases and Tunnels, and this guy listed like 40 or 50 already. Montauk wasn't on there yet, but they had this network already kind of mapped out under the U.S. And I'm sure we've all seen those countless videos of those large tunnels under there.
I just have this theory, Brian, that like it's like, I had Gene Decode on yesterday, and he thinks, he specializes in the dumps too, and like I have this theory, like, and the other people think this too, that like we're just not being told about. There's a whole world underground. There was a Native American guy that used to come on Art Bell, and he used to say that there was literally like oceans and lakes underground as well, like that aliens and civilizations like the Garths and stuff have whole cities and whole. And you hear about reptilians having tunnels down there and caverns as well. Like, it's like, I just have a feeling we're not being told about so much. And it's so much more elaborate and so much more than what we can even ever imagine, Oh,
yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah. That was part of what was his name? Red Hawk, I think.
Red
I know
Elk.
the guy you're talking about. I used to listen to him. Red Elk, yes.
Red Elk, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And the reptilians, yeah, of course. I mean, they may have been here before humans, and that's how ancient they may be, but they've retreated down there for some reason or another, and this is ours up top. But if you go, into their area too far, obviously, you may encounter that. You'd be surprised. It's an uncharted land, just like the ocean, or anything else that we don't know. Even the forest for some people, and even the forest at Montauk. I mean, I haven't walked through the whole thing. We recently have, but it's bigger than you think. Yeah, so I definitely believe that things are with it, because the Earth is the crust of the Earth is like a honeycomb. So it's like pockets there's openings everywhere, and the oceans he's right, because scientists did find a few years ago that there's more water in the oceans in the crust of the Earth than there is on the surface of the Earth. So there's some massive oceans bigger than our oceans on the surface in the crust, like trapped in pockets, underground oceans in pockets, and also huge, massive caves. And even the Hopi, they talk about the ant people taking everybody in. So there's countless references to underground living, basically.
I always say that would explain why the whole reason for USOs. Like they say the UFOs that go unidentified submerged objects that go from the
Yes.
air to the water. They do it seamlessly. Like they do it without even breaking water, and they
Yep.
just like, and like you got to wonder, well, where are they going, and like you said, the ocean's so uncharted, so there's got to be some alien bases down there. And I used to have a woman that came on my show. She said that she thought there was a lot of like a big alien base under the Marianas Trench,
Oh, yeah.
and in other places too, so it's because it seems like they come off the coast of like Norfolk, Virginia, and then Preston Dennett wrote a book about the USOs off of Catalina Island in California.
Oh yeah, and that was one of the oldest ones I remember too, from an old book. Like it was like Time Life or something when I was a kid at a yard sale. But Catalina Island was like one of those old black and white ones, one of the originals too, and maybe it was in Blue Book. But yeah, this is I've been collecting UFO reports since I was a kid. I have like VCR tapes, just like 6 hours filled of stuff I recorded off the news, like Phoenix Lights Live when it happened, and like all that stuff. And I've been collecting and printing, everything for years on. So it was always a big thing for me. So finding them at Montauk too was just like a bonus. But it's insane how many things go unreported too.
Dude, that's how, like, when you mentioned Red Elk, I was listening to Art Bell in like 1999, 2000, 2001, back when the radio, you had to turn the knob on the radio. I think I had a car stereo. It was like a digital stereo then, which is like funny that, that was like the first digital stereos, but like, it was still like, radio was still big back then, like the word podcast hadn't even been thought of. I always tell people, it's funny, that like back then it was just like Art Bell. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of other stuff too, but I mean, like, like for me as a kid, that's all I could find, I don't know.
That's I know the feeling, especially I went through the same era, and then, even a few years before with Montauk, just going out there, not knowing the map of the base, or like, I can't look at it from above, I'm like, where are we going? I only had like an old road atlas that didn't have the streets, because you go to the library to try to find it, but then all of a sudden the internet's there, bam. I'm like, I'm taking all this, everything I find. Like, I literally like downloaded the entire, like everything I could find. So, because I was so excited to get all that info at once. But now it's like,
at the beginning of the internet, there was a lot of good websites. They were like really generic. They were done in like HTML, but you could find some like really good conspiracy information. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Biblioteca Apocalypse or whatever.
Yeah.
And what was another one? Yeah, there's a couple of people made their own too, like not Firefox. Yeah, I can't remember it. I'm close. Angel Fire.
I was trying to figure out, like, did you ever listen to old school like UFO radio too? I remember like back in like, I think it was 2005 or 2009. Like, I was always a fan of like UFO radio, and I remember before Alejandro Rojas got real big, like before he got his break, he was doing another guy's show. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a great show. They would be on at night, like Art Bell, but like they would, they did a separate thing, and he was like, yeah, it was a good show, man. Because I always tried to follow UFO radio throughout my life, and then it was just the internet would help so much, because it kind of like opened everything up. You know what I mean? There's all of a sudden became so much more. Now everybody has,
Exactly. You could just do it like that, but it was hard then, and to put it in the work is, you appreciate it, of course. But yeah, I mean, you can find all those episodes now. I wish I did hear that at the time, but I had my fill of stuff. I don't know where I got it all, but TV was a lot, because I guess I had certain shows, I saw that were coming on. I was able to like throw in a tape and record it or something. Radio shows, same thing. Or it's hard. You couldn't record on CDs like in your Discman, but like certain, tape play, you could just radio.
Back in the day, did you watch
which one? Oh, Sightings, yeah, of course. Sightings, Unsolved Mysteries, every show I could find that wasn't like normal content.
Yeah.
And all the movies too.
Oh my gosh, you guys are like, this is a blast down memory lane.
Yeah, really.
A question from Courtney. She wants to know a question. Please ask Brian if there's ever found a ground radar Preston talked about.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. The radar that it's kind of like the antennas that, I don't know if you ever seen like the jungle antenna, like I don't know, it's some military manuals and stuff, but you could bend antennas in different positions and shapes to get different effects or different results, I guess. And so ground radar would be like this big shape that's bent into something that can receive signals, transmissions, RF or something. And so that's great. I forgot that you said that, Courtney. And I'm gonna dig into that now that you said it, because I'm definitely interested in that, and I want to maybe I could talk to Preston Dennett and ask him, where a little more details about it, so I can look for something like overhead or on the old aerials. I'll go through like every year on the satellite, look for changes, and I got Photoshop so I could like invert it and contrast and look for things. So I'll zoom in there and do my best. But yeah, I'm gonna thank you for reminding me. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Preston would probably be a really good one. He's going and doing the hometown areas. He dug up stuff even in my area, so I was like, wow, that's really cool.
I want to get his books. I definitely have like a massive book collection too from back in those days, all UFOs, everything else. So I still like to print books.
They can't change it. They can't swab it like they do the internet. It's it's like once it's. I mean, they'd have a harder time, I guess, doing it. But
yeah,
I appreciate that. I always take screenshots, because I'm like, people change their websites, they change everything, and then you lose those breadcrumbs along the way. So good for you for doing that.
Yeah, screenshots, except they're all named the same thing. That's the problem with screenshots. You're supposed to go in and label them after, but I just have like this
That's a
file
good
of
point.
like,
Yeah.
and when I'm getting like a map view, I'm like, I'm not doing myself any favors by like snapping so many of them. But
she meant Preston Nichols, Brian. I think she meant Preston Nichols.
Okay, I thought you meant.
Oh, my bad. We were talking about Preston Dennett, so I saw that. I apologize. So yeah, two Prestons.
Oh, was it? I thought maybe. Oh, okay, yeah, she did say Preston Nichols. Okay, that's why I didn't see Preston Dennett say it. That explains that. But I don't remember that part of Preston's, when he said it actually. So we'll search and look for that. It's probably on that channel 3X. It's like a big the database of like old videos, lectures mostly on Montauk, Albiolic, Preston. So it may be in one of those. Now that there's transcripts on everything, I probably could find it easier. So I'll look for that, and so I could find out exactly. I'd like to hear him describe it once more before I look, and try to find it. But I'm on it. I'm definitely going to look into it.
Yeah,
but that would be a great way to disguise, No problem. That's a great way to disguise something, to receive signals on the ground, like a glyph, giant glyph or something.
Oh, what cryptids are associated with the Montauk area? Is it the same? Is it similar? Because I'm from Pittsburgh, and I know we have like Bigfoot, dog,
sure,
Thunderbirds. Like, is it similar? Like there, do they get similar cryptids there?
Yeah, though there's part of the legend, I would say, of like the Camp Hero, but it was like from the first book, Preston and Peter Moon's book. But Junior, actually, here he is, right here. He looks kind of like a dogman, but he's supposed to be like a Sasquatch. He's supposed to be either created from thin air or from thought, or came through a portal. The stories differ, and so does his size, reported size. From like 8 foot to 30 foot, and what he did on the base, whether he came out in the underground or it was conjured on the surface. All we know is that people have tried to take pictures to capture where he once stood, and there are several photos that show. One of them does look like a dogman or a werewolf kind of, and the other one looks like almost like a gorilla or a Bigfoot, I guess, in a way. That's what I see, the different shape, ears and body, but they're in the same exact spot. So it's been varied reports of what Junior is. But when we were there, there's a few pieces of footage we have, and even recently, a photo through the dicyanin phone lens, which is like the aura glass. It's like a purple lens that has a black coal tar that's like everything's purple, but it's mostly UV, but it filters out. You're supposed to see auras through. You can actually, if you hold your hand up to the light, you can see your aura around it. But we brought that to Camp Hero. We had the spirit box going at the same time, but anyway, in the background, we see the same thing that we've seen on that road on our very first video, and it looks like a little bear cub or like a little wolf figure. But I mean, who knows? I'm zooming in. It looks like something was behind this tree, and we just walked past that tree. There's nothing behind it, but on the video, you see this artifact. And I happened to be saying, "Look behind you" to Danielle, because she was between me and that tree. And because behind the tree, there are people walking down the road. At least I thought there were. So I said, there's people. But right in that line, there was this thing on the video instead, and no people. It's really weird. And then so later we've seen that same looking thing in another video or another photo, like at least 2 or 3 times, but it's much smaller than Junior was reported to be. It seems to be like a shadowy figure that appears in our videos. Didn't see anything with my eyes, but one time when I was there, I went there by myself, like around my birthday, I think, just to like walk around. And I was in by the computer building, and I was actually recording this too. And I'm sitting there, I go to pan up on the radar, and something jumps off the roof of the computer building behind me and lands in the bushes, like right behind me. I felt it hit the ground, and you hear it on camera. It's like thump. And then it took like 1, 2, 3 steps, and it was just gone. So I had turned around, and there was no like leaves moving or nothing, like no swaying grass that it hit. And if it was a deer, they take off like chaotic and make a ruckus. Why would a deer be on the roof anyway? How could it even get up there? So whatever that was, it was so weird because it was so like a deep bass when it hit the ground. It was heavy. It's heavy about even heavier than me maybe, as a human. So I felt like it was like equal weight. So the weird thing is when I put that video up, I got a subscriber, 3 subscribers that had Bigfoot related stuff, and they sent it to me. Some were first time people I talked to on like Instagram. One bought my book. Anyway, one sent a claw mark in a tree, and it looked like the tree kind of split from natural, but it was like, okay, claws. Another one sent over by the picnic tables a piece of the radar, but it looked like a Bigfoot footprint. And he's like, I don't know how this was made or why it's over here. So he sent that to me. The third person sent a story from he was there the weekend before, very close to where I heard this thing jump off the roof at night with his friend, and they heard something in a tree. He didn't want to scare his friend. And then a few minutes later, something jumped out of the high tree and landed. It shook the ground, and they said they ran for a second and they decided to come back and like go past that area when they were like brave enough. But it was all like in the same week or so around the same area. So kind of tie them together just for like people giving me random stories.
Brian, it says this is so funny video. He says my favorite testimony from Preston, I think he means Preston Nichols, is he says the resident Kryptonian at Montauk loved to drink toilet bowl cleaner.
Oh, yes.
That's right. I guess talk about that.
That's so awesome. A friend just said to me yesterday, he said that to me about he said, at least you weren't talking about reptilians drinking Drano. And I was like, oh my God, that's an awesome sticker. So I'm going to make that one.
Oh, you should make stickers. Those would be amazing. My son was just talking about covering a table with one. I was like, man, more people need to be doing that. I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about that the other day.
Oh, I already made them, and I put the store up. Like I got a whole bunch designed, and I have like 50 more ideas. Like I made sheets, sticker sheets, and some of them have like the LSD room wallpapers and like mind control stuff. They're like the subtopics of Montauk, so it's not like your typical Montauk stickers like you'd expect, like just the radar and like Montauk Project. It's like some of the deeper topics. So I don't know if everybody will get all of them right away, but I did, like all stuff I did write about. I'm sure everybody knows most of them. People know a lot, so that's what I enjoy. So yeah, but I did make one actually, and I want to make one with the Drano because it was Drano in particular, which I thought was very specific and funny. Preston did say that. And he was going on about how they love this Drano and we're getting drunk, and he was really getting into that part of the story. That's where he started losing people a little bit, and they were like, because he went off on these little tangents, as he talked, from what I saw in those lectures when we were there, at least. Wow. That's funny. Thanks for reminding me of that.
So that's on your website. I'll go ahead and I'll get that link real quick, and I will drop it in the chat so the chat has that. And is that where you're selling like the stickers and your books, everything's on there?
Yeah, I just made that so I could sell like a signed book that people have asked, and I have a couple stickers I made. Like here's like the sheet of them. I don't know if you can see it, but they peel off.
Those are wow, those are awesome. Oh, I want to order some.
The Toxic Barrel. Toxic Barrel and the Tick Farm. Sorry. Ticks, everything Montauk, and I have a pack that has like 5 stickers. I have the Montauk chair, the Montauk Tower, the radar with every level, and then like the underground levels I added on, and like just a whole bunch of different stuff. I'll have to show you those too. But there's only 3 sets of stickers, so one's a sheet like that, one's a pack, and one's like 4 different kinds of stickers as like a set. But yeah, so I'll make more stuff eventually. I made keychains too, like little Montauk keychains, but I'm going to switch it up and just make ideas as I go and just add them in there. And it's mostly for fun, like just to create stuff and make the art of it kind of. It wasn't for any other real reason than I wanted to make them basically. But I wish I could find the pack to show you, but that's the one I like the most. Is the sticker pack.
Those are
just
cool.
like a big ones.
Those are
Thank you.
very cool. Yeah, and then there was a question too about Indian. Oh, Jason had it. Oh, Indian Lake Project. Have you heard of the Indian Lake Project? He said it's a possible connection to Montauk, boys.
Oh, is that in Florida by chance?
Jason, if
Or
you're in there, if you could, yeah, because I've seen it pop up a couple times, so I wanted to make sure to ask his question. But yeah, we'll see if he responds here. But yeah,
because my
I bet there's
grandfather
so
lived
many.
in a place in Florida called Indian Lake. It was it was a bunch of like homes, like motorhomes, not motorhomes, but like it was like an elderly person's neighborhood that my grandfather loved, and they had little golf carts to travel around. You didn't drive cars in it, but I don't think that was it. But we did. The kids there were kind of wild. They made us like take out the carts at night, and one of them almost took it into the pond, and there's gators in there. And I thought these kids are nuts. So if that was the place, I would totally believe it. But I don't think I've heard of that otherwise. So I'll have to come back and like take a note of that too and check that
Okay,
out.
yeah, because he's saying he thinks it's in New York. So we'll find out. Jason, if you have any
Oh,
additional
okay.
information, Brian will go back through, and he's really, really good about all this stuff. Otherwise, I will get the information
Awesome.
to him. But yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that or answering that, Brian.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. Anything new too that I missed? There's plenty that I missed.
We can't keep it. I mean, you just can't keep your eyes on all of it. So people were asking before too, and I think this is really valid. Do you have a direct connection to Montauk other than curious, like out there looking? I mean, do you feel like you were ever a part of this project, or it was ever even anything more than that exploration that you've done?
Nothing that I ever could think of or know of. It's the only I do have those like deep connections to this place in the sense of like family, friends, people that work there, but going there my whole life. Like my father he was in the army and he worked after the army in Sperry. Sperry is a company that built the radar. My mom's best friend, her husband worked at the Montauk Air Force Base up until like 1981. In fact, like one of a family friend that I grew up with was like the head of the B&L project with CERN, Atlas, and he's given me all kinds of like scientific knowledge over the years. Like when they were all hanging out, our parents, he would send me over to telescope or let me play with these crazy programs from B&L. I don't know what it was, but I was flying through stars and like it was just like points of light, like on an old keyboard, like pixels, but it was like the real star maps and you could like fly through them. It was crazy. And B&L did invent the first video game in 1968, table tennis. So they also made video games there, and like the first nuclear reactor, graphite reactor, and all this other stuff. So like literally, this is a piece of CERN right here. This is a piece of the CERN Large Hadron Collider, LHC. This is a
Wow.
see that piece in the middle of this keychain. Sorry. It's like a metal piece in the middle. That's a cable, a flat cable. It's a superconducting cable. It's got like a COA. It has like CERN, a serial number and all that. And he gave me all this stuff from like pictures of the Higgs boson particle when they discovered it. It's like an interdimensional particle that blinks in and out of existence. So it's like here 1 minute and then gone the next. And they had articles in Newsday on Long Island when they first were running these tests that this may like destroy the planet and cause a black hole that will eat like the solar system and the galaxy. I'm like, oh, lovely. We're all like, oh, that's a great story, And that's when like the Mandela effect starts. So people have blamed CERN a lot, but actually they did that test here on Long Island at B&L, which did work with CERN. And this guy that I grew up with was the chief. So he was really like an egghead in a sense of like science. And I don't think he knew like the outer workings of any of the politics. He was like focused on the subatomic level, his atoms and also the stars. So so like there's a lot of close ties in my life to people. And it's, people worked at all kinds of facilities and a lot of military family. That and going out there and being so involved in it, but no personal connections ever that I could think of. I've had dreams about working at radome sites, like disabling them and stuff like these. The one that I made the eyeball sticker out of, like those are what used to be at Montauk, the inflated bubble radars. So I used to have some dreams where I'd like go and like take a piece out of them after they were like abandoned. But I think that was from going and immersing myself into Montauk, of course. So I did have that strange like that a lot of people have dreams about it and stuff after they go. Other than that, a white van tried to kidnap me when I was a kid, but there was no success. My grandmother unleashed a Siberian Husky and they were yelling, and they had called the cops on the plate, but it was switched to like a brown car onto this white van. But when the guy drew, I was like drawing on this like sidewalk with chalk. It was like the first day of school or something. That little white line on the stop sign. I was like drawing, and then these guys,
Wow,
I thought they were gonna run
Brian,
me
that's
over.
scary. Your grandma, thank goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
and this husky was huge, like a dire wolf, and looked like I used to like sit on her back. So she came running, and they saw they pulled off. But when they came up to me, it looked like they were gonna hit me. I thought because they were so close, and then the sliding door was open, and there's a guy standing there just looking at me. I remember his face still. You know, it's just like I couldn't have done nothing. I was just like frozen. I was hoping they didn't run me over, but I didn't understand it as a kid. They told me like about it for years after, but other than those things, there was a white man trying to grab kids, but they missed me, so I got lucky.
What did the dog do? Did the dog attack them? Did your dog attack them, or like how did it work?
My grandmother's husky, she just came running like she looked like a barrel, like she was really like well fed, so she's like, rah. And they're loud. Huskies go crazy, so if you ever hear them yelling, I think that scared them alone. And also, they were watching me from two corners. Like I was on the corner, so like my mother was down on one, and my grandmother was coming to meet me. They thought it was all right to leave me for a few minutes, like walk on my own. So in that moment, here comes this van. So, and that this is all relayed to me. All I remember is like some van with a door open, the guy, and they were gonna run me over. Kind of, I didn't see him coming. So. But yeah, so knowing that, I never got really close to the original authors or anything. Not that I was accusing them of that or anything, but we just didn't trust people other than my friends. We were a tight group of friends, and we had a rotating lineup of people that would go out to the base with us that were really into it, like a good 12 that were definitely into it, and like another 20 kids that were like satellite friends that would come in and out. So these groups, we were out there to go find info, and we didn't want to get sucked into the storyline when we can go and look ourselves, kind of. So that's how we felt back then. And once I started talking to everybody else around Long Island, I started getting great stories and realizing that this story has affected everybody. A lot of people feel like they're involved. There's actually people out there on Long Island that say they were involved and they were there in that time and everything, and they've never talked to the internet press. I've just heard it through third person and repeatedly over the years the same stories, from the same people, that this person's out there. And so I've heard other people that talked about it. So there's this whole like other group of people out there too, I wonder. But a lot of Long Islanders just feel that basic that it influenced us all, and that's what they write about in the first book too. That they started pushing the tests further and further to see how far the range would go, even including Connecticut, because Montauk, the SAGE radar is it has a 300-mile range, not rage. But it goes over the horizon radar. So it goes 300 miles until the curve of the Earth would stop the radar from going, because it would go forever and then return, because it's just energy. It's not going to slow down. There's no interference on it, but the curve is where it stops. It loses its, so it was able to see 300 miles out, long story short. So they could actually do the tests when they're broadcasting up to 300 miles in a circumference. So it might even be Massachusetts and Jersey and New York City eventually testing the range on people in the initial times when they were learning those things.
Wow. We kind of talked about that and touched on that a few other times too. Chris
Yeah.
Saladay, he's local here, and big shout out coming from Iowa. He said, Brian, have you looked at the satellite photos? I know you talked about it before, that kind of underneath, but of Montauk base area, and he's military too. Have you,
Yeah.
or excuse me, if you have, are there any areas that are blurred or blocked out that you can see that are on the land area, I guess, through Montauk?
That's a great question. Yeah, I've looked at every year satellite image plus all the old aerial topographical maps of the elevations and all the old aerial photos from different years. And I've even lined them on top of each other and made maps where I could change the opacities and like really stack everything up and see through time kind of. So as many as I could find, and I got even recently keep finding more and more older shots. And so I did find disturbances through the woods, at least, where it looks like they may have cut down trees to make tunnel systems and that were later buried. That took a long time to grow back. And those kind of line up with some of the infrastructure there. Blacked out and blurred, not as much on the surface, but the thing that I found under the water, the mound, they literally have a black square on that very spot where it was blurred out. It's like a glitch, actually. It's not always a black square, but you can see it has a shadow. So it's like a tile that was lifted off the map. And now it's got this slight shadow. And it's blurred. When you zoom out, the whole thing is just like solid blur on top of it. So of course I screenshot those too. Made more of a mess that I will clean up. But that's a great question, because I will look for that as well. That would be something to look for. Okay. So I appreciate that.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I bet that gets real interesting and murky, but yeah, you know it like the back of your hand. I've told Rob that. I don't know how he's like, you got Brian is so he knows like this inside and out. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. That's cool to hear. I mean, I can draw the map, I'm sure, like in my head, but there's still, so much I want to know too. That's for sure. I have a ton of questions. I would love to be able to see inside certain places and just know for sure what's in and what's down there. So to me, I'm still asking the same questions too. Thanks. Yeah, I still have a ton of questions always. So
That's good because you can't ever stop questioning. Otherwise, I tell you, you lead and you're working on a map of all of it. And I love the point where, because it's like common sense. A lot of this is common sense. And you're taking and you're putting this and compiling this all together. And you're like, it's trial and error. But if you cannot speculate a little bit in this, you'll never get anywhere.
that's right. Yeah. I mean, you can only plot out it's so many utilities, but you have to guess how, like if you were them, how would they try to expand this place, and what would be the most, even problem areas where there's like too much water buildup or any construction issues, all that stuff. So yeah, you're right. Trial and error. That's a great way to describe it. And over time, lots of wrong guesses, but eventually you could kind of see that there's this. Sometimes you have to build in a certain spot, even there's something else there. So it wouldn't be possible for it to be there because something else is there. So like working backwards to find these things is a lot of it. Like finding out what's where, and then it's obviously not there; it's somewhere else. So that helps with the guess big time. I would just love if I could do computer 3D mapping. So one day I'll have to collaborate with somebody who's like works for an architect office or something and create it that way. Because I was going to learn Google SketchUp, and I thought that was just adding too much to my plate at this point, starting from scratch to like 3D map it out. I'm not an architect, but I do have I could picture it in my head exactly like that. But for me to make it on the computer would be a different story. I don't think I want to attempt that.
No, I bet not. That would be. I know if I tried that, that'd probably end in disaster. Tiffany from the group, she wants to know: does Brian know of ET contactees who ended up with fiber optics coming out of their hands? Knowing I'm not the only one, I know I'm not the only one, so she must be experiencing that herself. Have you ever
is that
heard that?
Morgellons, I think it's called.
Oh, the Morgellons.
It's a big thing in the targeted individual community. A lot of targeted individuals have that, like like the Morgan, like you said, Brian. The Morgan, it's a real thing. Like I've seen people like
okay,
it's
not
scary.
Morgellons. Yeah. So that sounds like the microtechnology I did hear about. Some people could describe it as black goo, but it could look like snow also. And they're just like the size of a particle that has a small battery that's powered by touching the other. They have 8 arms, and kind of like those old Capsella toys is from the 80s. But if you have 2 arms that touch, that's what gives them the power. So all they have to do is, and these can change shape. They're called like smart dust. And fiber would be easy to have in somebody once you can get down to like talking nano machines. So those are possible now. Fibers would easily be possible as well. I mean, it's a much bigger, but yeah, I could only imagine what they could put into those fiber optics and all kinds of. You could literally put batteries, cameras, and a whole circuit, a microchip, a very small chip that would, be the brain of that device. Whether how small it is, could be like the size of a hair, and that's all physically. That's all like real technology right now. You can even go read on like some of it's in like major science magazines even. Which is scary, yeah. So I didn't hear of that, which I will check that out. But it kind of goes with like a lot of the old alien implant stuff and some of the stuff I used to see, and maybe that's where they got that idea and made it, changed it into something a little more human. But like the idea of monitoring and tagging and on, who knows? That's interesting. It's why
I believe a lot of the technology that from aliens, I believe a lot of the technology the government has, they probably got it from aliens, and they're just using it for the wrong ways or something. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. And like back engineering and making. So I didn't mean
Oh
to cut you
yeah.
off too, Chloe.
No, that's okay. We just had a question from Courtney. Did you ever do the knock test with a stick to find hollow spots on the ground, and how did that turn out?
Ooh, yeah. No, I didn't do it with a stick. That's a good idea. But I did. You know, you hear it sometimes with your feet, and we especially did that inside the Navy base bunkers. Um, they're just these bunkers with nothing. They go in there. There's no ports. There's no electric connections. So we were like kicking the floor in there. It's supposed to be this underground, and it did sound hollow. Somebody else told me something really interesting too. That with a excuse me underground area that you can hear an echo. That means that if you can hear an echo for no reason in front of a building, when there's no clear like triple wall to bounce off, or just this echo that's out of place, it means likely that there's some kind of underground cave or opening, either beneath that building or under your feet, somewhere in between. And this was somebody like I think they worked at the keyboard place, so they like all about sound. But I thought that was interesting because there's a few spots I have heard echo like that. But I'm going to do a knock test too because we'll test every kind of test we can until we run out of ideas. So that's cool. I'm definitely going to rewatch and write down all these ideas because no idea goes unturned or undone or whatever.
Wow, that's amazing. And then I guess maybe we have another question here. This will be the last one that I have on my end. Have you ever seen any symbolism anywhere, or have you ever been able to connect any symbolism, I guess, into anything that you've seen or there at Montauk?
Yeah, there's like this. There was one, I think it used to be on the website of Above Top Secret way back in the day. That was another one of those old sites that had a lot of great stuff. And somebody found on the Montauk, right in front of the Montauk Lighthouse on the rocks, there was this symbol carved in that looked like like a triangle kind of with hooks on them, kind of like this, I guess. And it was carved in the rock. And then, there were some things on some of the albeolic drawings of the aliens with like the same, kind of triangle on their sleeves. But there's other things like we've been looking for around the base, but no like, if it comes to like writing or like geoglyphs or anything like that, petroglyphs, like writing on rocks, we didn't really see anything like that. But somebody actually carved that right into this giant boulder, and it looked like they wrote it with like a pen, but somehow it was like almost like a Dremel or something made it. It was pretty interesting. I don't see, there's a lot of symbolism out there because you have all that history, but there's also a lot of stuff that was wiped away or like knocked down. So it's kind of like a fresh land, and anything that you see like on the surface level, it's a lot of stuff's really overgrown. So anything old would be harder to see. So everything would be kind of new that you see, but I wouldn't doubt it that there would be like new symbolism there right now because it's so many people are going out there, especially in the summer and from all over. And over the years, it's had so many visitors because of Stranger Things' popularity. The base has really picked up in traffic over the years, and even the fence that we used to sneak through all the time, most recently was sealed off on every hole, but the front gate was open, and families were like moseying around, like people with kids. I guess they thought it was like somebody had pushed it open and left it, so everybody just. I opened the gate and was like, all right, everybody come through because, all these people are great cover. So it was like this day we could all go in apparently, but who knows, what's going to come of it because they have been sealing everything up over there too. But I will keep my eyes out for anything that's like symbolic, of course, or repetitious that I've seen. Oh, one cool thing that was symbolic was I was checking out this bunker. I heard something in the woods. Then I look in front of me on the bunker and it's the white rabbit painted in the graffiti. I was like, oh, that's so cool and fitting, for Montauk. But other than that, I haven't really noticed anything offhand. I may remember something that I forgot, but it's a good question. It's got me curious.
That's amazing. And Brian, Rob, do you have any other questions on your end? I was just looking at the time.
Oh yeah.
No, this
It's been absolutely amazing.
is amazing. I
Yeah.
Brian, do you want to tell everybody where they
Yeah.
can find you
This is
and
really cool.
where? Yeah, and everybody check the description. You're gonna find Brian's links to his books, to the website with the very cool stickers that I think should be like a hot commodity selling item because I know I want to get some. My son will go crazy over those. So
Thank you.
that's
I'm
awesome.
starting with 10 and trying to, keep adding to them because I want to make more. But thank you. I appreciate all that support. And it's the book, YouTube, and I have the Instagram for all the photos. You know, I take a lot of pictures, and that's about it. And my email, feel free to contact me at Gmail. All Montauk is Strange.
Yeah, I was gonna say Montauk Is Strange, like at gmail.com. You're on. You can find you on Facebook. You can find you across lines. So, in your book too, I've got a link into the hard copy. I'm not sure. I tried testing the ebook link out, but I don't think that it was working. Also, do you have that up on your website?
Yeah, I put it a few places, and even if you just write it in Amazon, you'll find it. Just Montauk Is Strange. Go to Amazon, and you'll see it there. I've been lucky enough to stay in the, since it's new still, but I appreciate all the, any little bit, any kind of form of the book that you get. Of course, I prefer the coffee table, but it's a big, heavy book. It's more money, so I get it. It's like lifting weights, that one.
But it's packed, jam-packed.
It's packed. Yeah, it's jam-packed.
Information. Yes,
thank you. I
definitely.
Appreciate that.
Jam-packed. I mean, yes, and you've done a phenomenal job. So I just want to thank you too. And I like your YouTube. You got a YouTube channel, Montauk Is Strange. Thank you, Jason H, for putting that up there. I saw that you were putting that through. So I encourage you to get over there and subscribe to Brian and look through his stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was cool. Do you guys collaborate? Have you collaborated like this a few times? Because I didn't see it, but okay, that's a really cool idea. I thought it's on both channels. So yeah, thank you both, and it was definitely an honor.
Sorry, my dog. I got a dog with some anxiety going on outside, so I apologize. I'm gonna get but thank you so much, Brian. Yes, and we love, so I would love to put people in touch with you. You guys reach out to Brian if you have any additional questions. And again, thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much so. Awesome. So yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and Brian, thank you again, and we'll be in touch soon. And Rob, isn't he fantastic? Isn't Brian absolutely fantastic? I just so fascinating listening to him.
Oh, that was awesome. I really enjoyed
that. Yes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. So again, I apologize. I've got a dog with anxiety going on right outside. I'm gonna get going, but I am. Yeah, I think I'm. What's that?
Is everything okay?
Yeah, no, it says it. No, she
With your
just.
dog?
Yeah, no, it's just like the 2-hour marker. But I heard her start barking, so I was like, oh gosh, I don't know. She's pretty persistent. She's a blue heeler, and she's she doesn't let up. So I was like, and I'm going on with Sonia Galactic here in the next hour, so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, so
yeah.
Is there anything, Rob, you wanted to touch on before closing? Otherwise, we can just probably call it a wrap for tonight.
No, I'm going live in 2 minutes. I have one more show for the night, but that's it. And,
all right. So get over the Typical Skeptic podcast. And what channels are you going live on, Rob?
I'll be live on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook. And then you're going to live at 11, right? 11 or my time?
Yeah.
11 my time.
Yeah, 10 p.m. my time. For sure. So I'll jump in there and say hi too. So again, thank you. Yes. And on behalf of SNX Radio and Typical Skeptic Podcast, we thank you for taking the journey into the unknown with us tonight. Get over and show Rob some love over on his channel if you're listening. Twitter, X, I encourage you to find Typical Skeptic Podcast also on, he's Rumble, YouTube. He's got them all covered, Facebook. So yes, definitely. And I guess with that, we're just going to call it a close. So everybody have a nice night.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thank you. Love it. And we are done as soon as